Hey, how's it going? It's your boy Asian Psycho, aka ToSniper98. Remember June or July or maybe August of last year? If you're one of those people who started playing FGO back then, maybe you remember the thrill of finally being able to play Fate Grand Order that's been localized for English after watching the other JP weeaboos gloating about their 4 and 5-star waifus that all get cucked by this fucking cock wizard. Or maybe you better remember that time when you re-rolled your ass off for waiver. But either way, when you started playing, you got more and more invested into the game, and the more you got into it, the more you started caring about your servants, not you, and your account as a whole. The more you started doing research about the game. You started looking up stuff on the wikis, you started searching for event guides and drop sheets for those Ascension and skill materials that your favorite waifu or husbando servant needed, and so on and so forth. And maybe at some point you even watched a beginner's guide to FGO on YouTube because you started an FGO account and wanted to know what you needed to do, or what you should do, to maximize your time and effort that you spend on this game. I know I did. To name a few examples, I started out watching GNA reviews, Deku, Wait, where's this channel again? So in the context of NAFGO's first anniversary, I've decided to make my own little guide with some general pointers on how to min-max your experience here in Fate Grand Order. Now you may be wondering, why am I making a guide like this a year after the game came out? Isn't it a little bit too late for something like that? Well, as you might see on the subreddit Discord or other FGO related social media platforms, you'll find that people are picking up this game at all sorts of points during the game's lifecycle. As mind-blowing as it sounds, not everyone is a day oneer or a day threeer like I am. And especially with Aniplex gearing up to promote FGO at Anime Expo again this year, which is the largest anime convention in North America, there will undoubtedly be another wave of new players joining the game, most of whom will probably ditch the game once they realize what kind of gacha rates this game has. But a few of them will stick around, either because they like the Fate franchise or because they found themselves a new waifu or husbando. Those few may also get super invested into the game, and some of those few might even evolve into whales, who knows. Either way, it's likely that those people will go out of their way to look up external resources for FGO, people who are new to the game but want to learn more about it, and this guide is meant to be there for them. That, and I, being your friendly neighborhood whale, can offer a guide that's from a bit of a unique perspective, I guess you could say, with a year's worth of experience under my belt and whatnot. Or in other words, I'm telling you to listen to me because obviously whales are the best at this game. We got a lot to cover and I've only got 2 weeks to get this video out before first anniversary drops, so let's get started. But where do we start though? Before you even roll your account. When you make a new account, as you're going through the tutorial, the game shoves 30 quartz down your throat at some point and forces you to do what's commonly known as a tutorial roll. This roll is different from normal gacha rolls because it's scuffed, or in other words, the servant pool is limited, you can't pull 5-star servants, and the only 4 stars that you can pull are any from this list of servants you see here. You can pull multiple gold servants in a single tutorial roll, but they can, again, only be from this list still. However, the good part is that unlike normal gacha rolls, the tutorial roll guarantees you a 4-star servant and a 4-star craft essence, which is this game's way of starting you off on a decent footing. So what's a reroll? Rerolling is rolling new accounts over and over until you roll the servants that you are happy with. If you download FGO and open it up in your settings, you have the option to clear cache, and if you do that, you'll wipe the account that's currently on your phone, if you have one on there that is, and you'll start from scratch again. At least that's how I did it last year. I don't know if that's been changed at all, and if it has, well, I guess fuck me. The reason why rerolling is relevant is because you can start with an account that has a starting set of servants and or CEs that you like for free. And the best servant that you can get from the tutorial roll is Herc. He's a top tier 4-star berserker even in current content JP. Carmilla comes in second because of her strong niche in the game as an anti-female rider or berserker assassin, and in my opinion anyway, Tomacat comes in third due to her utility as an AoE berserker, which is useful for farming. These 3 you'll want to hunt for because their utilities are the strongest out of everyone in the tutorial summoning pool. When you're re-rolling, also make sure to make bind codes for the accounts that you roll. In the event that you roll an account that gives you a good lineup of servants and CEs, but you want to keep trying your luck for a better one, make a bind code for that account and keep it just in case it's the best account that you've ended up rolling so that you can get it back. And if you do recover it, make sure to make another bind code for that account, as bind codes are a one-time transfer thing. Just remember that it's alright to re-roll for waifus or husbandos too if there's someone you specifically like in the tutorial pool, as this ultimately is a waifu or husbando simulator mobile game, which should come as no surprise. It's just that if you want to start off with the best tutorial servants possible to min-max your account, which is what this video is about, then you might want to channel your inner Ilya and grab Herc to carry you. So now that you've finally gotten an account with the servants and or CEs you like after about 1,000 rerolls, you're ready to get started. But in FGO, a full party consists of 6 servants, and likely you've only got 1 gold servant to work with, maybe 2 if you've been lucky, and however many other 3-star servants from the tutorial role. So you need other servants that you can get easily, that aren't locked behind the bad civilization that is the gacha. This is what the FrontPoint Summoning Gacha is for. It's a free gacha that you roll using friend points that you earn by using what's called a support unit, which is a servant from someone else's support list, and when someone else finds your servants on your support list and uses one of them, though we'll talk about the support list later on in this video. And every day at the daily reset, which is at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time or 4 p.m. when Daylight Savings Time ends, you get to roll the FrontPoint Gacha once for free. This is how you get the 1 to 3-star servants in this game, who are commonly known as the quote-unquote free-to-play servants because you don't ever have to pay for them with Sync Quartz. In fact, for the 1 and 2 stars, it's not possible to do so in the first place. Here's a little infograph that I made in like 10 minutes on Microsoft Paint. The ones you'll want to prioritize leveling first are Mash, David, Uriel, Ku, George, Ushi, Hans, and True Assassin. These are, in my opinion, the very best free-to-play servants that you can invest in right away, and they'll form a strong foundation on which you can build your account. The next ones after them are Fergus, Kid Gil, Ku Proto, Hector, Teach, Medusa, Alex, Medea, Shakespeare, Mozart, Regent, Hunterface, JK, Kyo, Lubu, Darius, and Eric. This tier of free-to-play servants indicates the servants you want to work on leveling next after the ones in the tier above, and these are servants who are good to have to beef up your account and make it more flexible in terms of the diversity of strategies you can use to do quests. I've also included the free-to-play servants who are really good at farming here as well, because while farming isn't essential to playing the game, it is essential to helping you get the materials that you'll need to make your servants even stronger. Or in other words, it's a big part of the game. And the next tier is composed of all the rest of the free-to-play servants whom I haven't mentioned already. Some of these servants are good in their own right, but have some noticeable flaws that make them less than ideal to use, or have some useful gimmicks that beginning players may not understand at first, so it's not something you should worry about now when you're just starting out, while some other servants are just straight trash. So if you'd like to level these servants, go ahead, because I won't stop you, but don't say I didn't warn you. Level whoever you get though, because if you're not a whale in this game when you're first starting out, it's not as if you really have the luxury of picking whatever servants you want outside of rerolling accounts. It's just that you'll want to level the servants in the upper 2 tiers in that infograph that I showed you whenever you can. But maybe by this point you've taken your servants on some missions in the campaigns, or what's called singularities in this game, and you've noticed that even after winning a fight, your servants don't level up or gain XP or anything, so how do you level them up? This is where we start talking about the dailies. At the main menu when you first load up the game and exit out of the rather annoying news window that always blows up in your face after you get past the title screen, you'll find somewhere near the top a blue button called the Chaldea Gate. If you press it, it'll take you to 3 tabs: Daily Quests, Interludes, and Rank Up Quests. The bottom 2 don't mean shit to you at this point, so you can worry about them later. Tap on the Daily Quests tab, and you'll find that you have 3 sets of dailies. The first 4 are in red, and they're called Ember Dailies, or quests that you can do to farm XP cards. And yes, you even have to farm XP cards in this game. Well, you didn't know this game's secretly called Fate Grind Order? No? Well, now you know. Memes aside though, this is where you farm XP cards for your servants. The more difficult the quest, as indicated by the AP requirement, the better your XP card drops. You want to start out small though, because if your servants are too low level and you enter, say, the 40 AP Ember quest, you'll get that ass beat, and you'll end up wasting 40 AP, and you'll feel salty and stupid as fuck for bringing level 12 servants or something to a quest that has a recommended level 60 or something for your servants. So yeah, start out small, and then work your way up. Note that XP cards themselves have classes, and if you give a servant a matching XP card of the same class, they receive bonus XP, around 20% extra or something if I recall correctly. For this, every day, the Ember Dailies rotate by pairs. Sabers show up with riders, archers with casters, and lancers with assassins, and Saturday and Sunday being the days when you get random embers that can be from any class. Other than the Ember Dailies, you've also got what are called Class Dailies in green, and Treasure Vault quests in yellow, and they're both tiered in the same way as Ember Dailies. The Class Dailies is where you fight enemies of the designated class for that day, which rotates every day by the way, for various Ascension and skill materials, notably pieces and monuments. And the Treasure Vault quests are where you farm QP, which is this game's currency for leveling and ascending your servants and their skills. There's a lot going on in FGO, so let's break things down a little and look at things one at a time. Let's start off with the main menu. Down here on the bottom left, you'll see two bars, one yellow and one green. The yellow bar is your XP bar. It indicates what's called your master level, which is your standard leveling parameter that you can find in other online multiplayer games. The green bar underneath it is your AP bar. AP is the currency that you use to do the vast majority of quests in this game, including dailies, story battles, interludes, rank up quests for certain servants, event missions, and nodes. There are a few exceptions here and there, but those exceptions usually pertain to events. You regenerate one action point, as they're called, every 5 minutes. And if you think this is a long time, you should have seen 2015 JPFGO when you needed 10 minutes for 1 AP. But anyways, when you hit your AP cap, you stop regenerating AP because, well, you hit your cap. So make sure it's never full unless you can't avoid it because, real life or something. Wait, real life? What's that? Every time you gain a master level, you automatically gain an AP bar refill or refresh. It makes it so that you go into AP overflow if you've got any amount of AP left over, so that'll also stop you from regenerating AP passively. At low levels, you'll be gaining lots of levels quickly, so for a good 40 or so levels, you can actually perpetually play the game while riding completely on the AP refills that you get just from leveling, but eventually you'll hit a point where you can't do that anymore. Just keep that in mind. You can also manually refresh your AP bar by using apples. The game calls them fruits, but they're really apples. I mean, come on, look at it. How's that not an apple? There are 3 types of apples: bronze, silver, and gold. Bronze apples give you 10 AP, but silver apples give you 50% of your current AP bar cap, and gold apples give you 100%. You can also use Saint Quartz to refresh too, and if you do, they'll also act like gold apples and give you another full AP bar. But unless you're a whale who doesn't give a flying fuck about burning rainbow apples, as we like to call them as a meme, it's best if you don't do that and instead hoard all your quartz for gacha rolls. In the upper right, you'll see whatever news and ongoing gacha banners are active at the moment. Above the news banners, if there's an event going on with event currency, the main menu will display your event currencies for your convenience, even if you don't have any, probably to remind you that you should probably get started farming whatever event's going on. Beneath that, besides the Chaldea Gate tab that we've covered already, the rest of the tabs are all story singularity chapters that you can access to complete story battles. It's important that you do eventually complete these singularities, as by completing them, they'll all give you Holy Grails, which are hyper-limited items that allow servants to break their level cuffs and be leveled past their usual limits and become even stronger. And certain events in the future have a singularity restriction, as in if you didn't complete the story up to a certain point, you aren't allowed to do that event. And if you are done with the singularities, you can always go back to them to farm the free quests that appear after you complete the story battles. You don't even need to finish the entire chapter to have access to these free quests. You just needed to have done the set of story battles that each of those nodes have, though later singularities can be a little bit fuzzy on that. On the upper left, you'll find the news button that'll take you to an in-game bulletin that you can browse for news, updates, maintenance notices, etc., in case you're curious. If you tap your character icon on the bottom left, you'll be able to look at your master profile. Here, you'll be able to view your account's information at a glance. This is also where you can change your in-game name and your character gender even, in case you're bored of one or the other, and where you can set your birthday, though remember that once you set a birth date on your account, you can't change it again. Next to your master level and AP bars, you'll see a gift box icon and a clipboard icon. The gift box is where you receive various items that you don't get from standard farming or whatnot. This includes login rewards, Mana Prism shop products, and event lottery rewards. Only XP cards, faux cards, QP, craft essences, and a couple of other items can be stored here, and for the most part, Ascension and skill materials usually get sent straight to your inventory if you receive them via event shop or login reward or something, so you don't have to worry about those. Treat your gift box as a kind of standalone inventory, and I'll explain why this is important in a little bit, but for now, just know that the items that you get through it stay here for a year before they auto-expire, and you can hold up to 300 items before the game says, no, you're hoarding too much shit, get rid of some of it. If you tap any of the items, you immediately receive them into your inventory. You can receive all your gifts at once with the Receive All button on the right, and receive anything that aren't cards like XP cards or craft essences. You can also individually select cards by tapping the check marks on the right of all the item entries, and receive only the ones you select that way. The clipboard icon pulls up a list of missions if you tap on it, and these missions are called master missions, or weeklies. They reset every Sunday at 4 or 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, depending on daylight savings time, and they're a set of 7 missions that give you 2 Saint Quartz fragments each that you can redeem at the shop tab for 7 Saint Quartz fragments per quartz, so each set of weeklies will give you 2 quartz a week. Now let's get into the stuff that you can find in the menu tab on the bottom right. Menuception! The menu tab brings up yet another tab from the bottom, and you'll have 6 buttons here to navigate to, and from left to right they are Formation, Enhance, Summon, Shop, Friends, and My Room. Let's start with Formation. The Formation tab has 4 tabs: Party Setup, Support Setup, Spirit Origin List, and Second Archive. The Party Setup tab is where you go to, well, set up parties for your quests, obviously. Normally you do this when you first go into a quest, but this tab is useful if you don't have AP to enter a quest to set up the parties that you might be theory crafting. And yes, you can manually move the support slot around. The second tab is probably the most important tab on the formation screen, and that's your support setup. Earlier I mentioned how you can earn friend points through support servants, and this is how you can set yours up. As soon as you roll servants, put them up on your support list. It doesn't matter if you haven't leveled them, having something on your support is better than nothing. You can only have 1 support setup active, but you do have a total of 3 setups so that you can switch between them easily depending on your needs, like if there's an event going on or something. You can also name each support setup to help remind you which one you need. Oh, and same goes for your party subs in the previous tab too. The third tab is the Spirit Origin tab. It's basically an information tab where you can go and tap on any server that you have to view their profiles, and you could even do this with things like XP cards, foe cards, and craft instances to read up on their flavor text if you really want to. You also have on the left the multi-card lock feature, which allows you to lock your servants and craft instances so that you don't accidentally burn them trying to sell off some crap XP cards and whatnot, or accidentally feed them to MASH. And keep in mind that 5-star servants and craft instances and bond craft instances all come automatically locked for you when you acquire them. While we're here, let's take a look at a servant's profile. Each servant profile has 4 tabs within it: Status, Profile, Character Skin, and Voice. The Status tab shows you their game relevant information, stuff like servant level, stat ratings, foe levels, bond levels, skills, MP information and level, command deck, and icon. When you ascend your servants, they'll automatically take on the deck and icons of their ascended stages, but you can manually revert them if you prefer the older ones by tapping on the buttons that say first stage, second stage, etc. The Profile tab has trivia and flavor text on the servant and even tells you their illustrator and voice actor. The Character Skin tab is where, just like the command card art and icon, you can manually select which Ascension stage you want your servant to assume in their battle sprite. And the cool thing is that the battle sprite, command card art, and their icon can be viewed not just by you, but by anyone who uses your servant if they're also set on your support. And of course, the Voice tab contains all the voice lines for that servant. Keep in mind that some voice lines, especially their My Room voice lines, will be locked until you actually proc them either in battle or in My Room after you set them as your favorite. And finally, the Second Archive. Your account has what's called the Second Archive, which is exactly what it sounds like, a second inventory. You can use this to store whatever servants or XP cards or foes or craft essences so that your main inventory isn't too clogged up. Note that you actually have 2 second archives technically, one for XP cards, servants, and foe cards, and another exclusively for craft instances. Coming back to the gift box thing, if you consider all the storage space that you have, you basically have 3 separate storages: your main inventory, your second archive, and your gift box. For most of you, and most of the time at that, you're probably not going to be forced to make use of all 3 at the same time, but events with lottery systems may change that, so just keep that in mind. Now let's move on to the Enhanced tab. This is where you level up your servants and your craft instances. The first tab is Servant, and this is where you feed your servants XP cards and foe cards. You can stack up to 20 cards per feed, and you can use other servants as XP fodder, though they don't give anywhere near as much XP as actual proper XP cards. So be careful not to accidentally feed your precious gold servants to others. Again, use that lock feature. When you're leveling either servants or craft instances, there's a small chance that you'll pull off what's known as a super success or a great success. A super suck doubles the amount of XP that you're feeding a servant or CE, and a great suck triples it. The next tab is the Skill tab. This is where you level servant skills from level 1 to 10 if you have the QP and the skill materials needed to level them. Next is the CE tab. Like servants, you can also level your CEs too, and the more you level them, the more stats they give to the servant that you cook them to. If you combine a CE with another copy of itself, you perform what's called a limit break, which increases its level cap on top of feeding it XP, and if you combine a total of 4 extra copies of the same CE, you increase the effect of the CE itself, and you'll know when a CE's been fully limit broken on your support list or party setup by the little star that appears on the CE there. The fourth tab is the Ascension tab. This is where you ascend your servants, which is honestly a bad UI decision because you have to get out of the servant leveling tab to go to the Ascension tab, but whatever, JP fixes that later on down the road. Once a servants hit their level cap, you can select them here in the Ascension tab, and if you've got their Ascension materials, you can ascend them, which bumps up their level cap by 10. At first Ascension, third Ascension, and fourth Ascension, their Saint graphs, or their card art or whatever, will change art, and at their first and third Ascensions, they'll gain additional skills, unless they're a servant who doesn't have a third skill. Well, not without their strengthening quests, anyway. The fifth tab is the Noble Phantasm tab. This is where you combine copies of the same servant together in order to increase their MP level, which buffs their MP in battle. So a similar methodology to the CE limit break mechanic, but for servants, and a bit more tedious. I'm looking at you, gold servants. Also make sure that you're leveling up the NP of the servant who's leveled instead of the other way around, please, because that'd be bad. Unless they have that update in NA now where it doesn't matter, I don't know. The final tab here is the Palingenesis tab, which is a really fancy fucking word for grail your servant here. Once you get a grail, and once you have a servant who's at their max level cap after 4 ascensions, you have the option to grail them. All servants can be grailed to a max level of 100, but each individual grail gives different amounts of levels depending on who you're giving them to. On screen is an infograph on how many grails it takes to get each of the star ratings to level 100. And one final thing about the grails, grail whoever you like. This game is designed so that you can play the game with whatever servants that you want. So while you might see a ton of other people grailing servants like Jalter and whatnot, grails are more intended to signify that you really like this particular servant to whom you've given your grails. Though that won't stop people from grailing for stats. Either way, just know that once you grail a servant, you ain't getting that grail back. So choose wisely, okay? Next is a summon tab, which will be the saltiest button you'll ever press in this game, other than the actual multi-roll button itself. This is where you roll the gacha. 2 gachas will always be active, the story gacha and the FrontPoint Gacha. The FrontPoint Gacha is, as I mentioned, where you roll for free-to-play servants anywhere between 1 to 3 stars. You'll also get low-level embers or XP cards, and foe cards along with low-level craft essences. The foe cards, by the way, are cards that directly increase your servant's stats by a little bit, up to a maximum of 1,000 for both health and attack. Well, it increases to 2,000 later on down the road, but we'll only worry about 1,000 for now at the time of this video. And it's like giving your servants additional stats after you level them. The FrontPoint Gacha is a good way to get them in case you've already used up the 3-star ones you get from the Mana Prism shop or other event shops. The FrontPoint Gacha costs you 2,000 friend points per roll, or you can roll it for free once every day. And make sure to roll your free friend point summon every day too, especially if you are free to play. The Story Gacha is bad, Civ. Well, memes aside, the Story Gacha is where you roll primarily for story-locked servants who are put here after you completed each singularity. For example, Umu is a story-locked saber, and you can only start rolling for her here in the Story Gacha after you complete Septum. Or you can see if you're feeling lucky and roll for K-scopes. But usually you want to roll on the banner gachas, or the raid-up gachas as they're otherwise known as. These gachas are special in that they have what are called raid-ups, or boosted chances that you will roll the raid-ups who are on quote-unquote raid-up. You can check the exact drop statistic of each particular servant or craft essence by tapping the summon info tab on the bottom left, just to see how horrible your chances are of rolling your favorite waifu or husbando. The fourth tab on the menu tab is the shop, where you've also got a whole ton more tabs! Tabception! Oh, and that's Leonardo da Vinci on the left, by the way, but if you've been reading through the singularities, you'd know that already. The first one's pretty straightforward. You can exchange event items that are ongoing. You can exchange event currencies for a short period of time, even after the event itself has concluded, so you do have some leeway with that. The cool thing about this tab is that you can actually see all the previous events and exchanges that the game has had so far, so you can cry your eyes out over all the events that you've already missed. The second tab is burning. This is where you sell off or burn stuff that you don't want or need. Typically, you'll be doing a lot of this to get rid of crap that you get from the FrontPoint Gacha, like low-level embers that you don't want, or if you're trying to get rid rid of a ton of 3 stars after a really salty roll session. Low level stuff will only net you a really small amount of QP or something, but servants, silver and gold XP cards, and 3, 4, and 5 star CEs will all give you a shop currency known as mana prisms, which we'll get into in the next tab. XP cards will give you 1 mana prism each, while servants give you 3 or more depending on their rarity, and 3 star CEs give you 1 mana prism, 4 star CEs give you 3, and 5 star CEs give you 5. And if you burn gold servants, you get rare mana prisms along with mana prisms, and rare MPs are an even more premium currency than Saint Quartz. Again, we'll talk about rare MPs in the next few tabs. The third tab in the shop is the Exchange Mana Prisms tab, or simply the Mana Prism shop. It has 4 permanent items for sale that refresh on a monthly basis, meaning that once you buy them out, you can't buy them again until the start of the next month. And those items are 20 all-class 3-star HP and attack foes, 50 all-class gold XP cards, and 5 summoning tickets. By far, the most important item among these are the tickets, as they're what lets you roll the gacha even more to fuel your ever-increasing addiction to the gacha. Everything else is secondary and more luxury items than necessities, but in case you feel like you do need them, feel free to grab them. But aside from those 4 items, the MP shop also sells special limited time items. Sometimes it'll sell some in-game goodie bags that you can pick up for like 3 mana prisms or something cheap like that, and they're part of an ongoing event. But major limited time items are craft essences that are exclusive to the MP shop. These CEs cost 1,000 prisms each, and you can buy up to 5 of them so that you can limit break them. You cannot get these CEs anywhere else, and these CEs are designed in a way that they're really only worth it if you buy all 5 of them at once to limit break them so that their effect is the greatest, but they are very useful if you do manage to pick all of them up. The next tab is the Rare Mana Prism shop, which right now for NA FGO is empty because it hasn't been implemented yet. But when it does get patched in, just like the regular MP shop, you can buy items that are refreshed on a monthly basis, including an extra crystallized lore, which is a limited skill material, but more importantly, this shop will allow you to buy items in the game that were limited time content and allows people who joined the game after these items were available to pick them up, though it is pretty much a paywall. And in any case, for the most part, you don't really have to worry about this as in the Rare Mana Prism shop, just worry about the regular Mana Prism shop instead. The next 2 tabs, the Expand Second Archive tabs, allow you to buy 100 extra slots for your second archives, 100 more for your Servant Second Archive, and the same for your CE Second Archive. In total, you'll have to drop another 1,000 mana prisms to get all 100 slots for each archive. So in other words, 2,000 mana prisms. The 7th tab is where you exchange your quartz fragments after you've earned them by redeeming your master missions or your weeklies. Again, if you complete all weeklies, you should get a total of 2 quartz. Next is the whale's favorite button, the Buy Saint Quartz button. This screen will have different rates depending on your region, but because I live in the US, my rates are in American dollars, so the highest quartz pack runs for $80 for 140 quartz. And because you get more quartz the bigger pack you buy, naturally the 80 quartz pack is ideal, and if you were to whale on this game, that's really the only quartz pack you should be buying. And finally, to round it out, the Omega Whale button, the Special Summon, which uses the game's highest tier of whale currency, the USO, or the Unregistered Spirit Origin. The only way you can get USOs in this game is by having a 5-star servant at MP5, and you continue getting extra copies of them past MP5. What happens is that the game keeps track of how many copies of each servant you ever pull, and if there are SSRs, it gives you a USO through your gift box the moment you pull a 5-star servant that you already pulled more than 5 copies of. And once you get 10 of these USOs, which are 10 completely unneeded SSRs, mind you, you can come to the Special Summon tab and exchange them all for 1 copy of another 5-star servant that's available for exchange here in this tab at any time. Usually, the servants eligible for special summoning are permanent gacha 5 stars, but you can also exchange them for story log 5 stars too, provided that you finish the singularities in which they appear. And if there is a rate of banner going on with a featured 5-star, that featured 5-star will also appear in special summon for as long as their rate up is active, though the game will only let you summon 1 copy of them for, well, fairness reasons, I guess. Moving on to the Friends tab, you can view your entire list of friends in the game here. You can sort them out just like you can when you're choosing a support to bring with you into a quest. You can also view your pending friend requests and manually search for specific people if you have their friend codes on hand. You can also find your own code here too. On the topic of friends, which I know these will be the closest thing to actual friends you'll have IRL, when you're first starting out, don't be afraid to add whoever you can find through the game suggesting friends to you. In the beginning, it's not like you're in any position to be picky with the kinds of friends you can get. But if you can, try to grab a whale or two so that you can use their strong supports to help you get through the initial slog of the game when your own servants are all low level. Whales are particularly helpful in grinding, as they'll likely have strong servants who can help out in grinding out embers and other essential materials that you're looking for. And finally, the My Room tab. If you've played the Extra or Extella games, you'll recognize this feature. You can do a lot of things here, like see which servants you haven't rolled on your account yet, reread any singularity or event story that you played through, even specific servant interludes, watch the opening trailer for the game, view your master profile, look over all the materials that you got on your account, TOS and random game stuff, game options, and, of course, play with your favorite FGO, waifu, or husbando. And by play with them, I mean repeatedly tap them inappropriately at a pathetic attempt to interact with a 2D picture on your phone screen. But if you're going for the My Room voice lines, then, well, I guess that's a valid excuse. And for your reference, if you're wondering why you can't see the final Ascension arts on your friend's support lists, go to the Game Options tab and enable the Apply Ascension Settings option. The issue transfer number is where you get your transfer code for your account. Again, your transfer code or your bind code is how you get your account back manually in case something happens to your phone or your game itself. Once you request the code, you'll also have to create a password to go along with that code, just as an extra layer of security. You can manually reissue your code again if you want to as well. And again, remember that the bind codes are a one-time deal, so once you use it to transfer your account to recover it or put it on another device, you need to make another one and keep that one too. The Return to Title button returns you back to the title screen, exactly what it says. What this also does, though, is that it relogs you, as in it resets your login time. This is important because you'll appear more frequently on your friend's support list, because the support system has a tendency to display people who've logged in recently, typically within an hour, more frequently than people who haven't logged in for more than an hour. So in case you're the type who farms a lot and you want to min-max your FrontPoint gain, log in every hour if you can. This also saves you a bit of time having to exit out of the game entirely and start it back up again. Oh yes, Saint Quartz. It's FGO's premium currency that you use to roll a gacha, as you probably noticed from your tutorial roll, or rolls, or thousands of rolls. It's pretty much a meme now, but along that logic, this whole damn game's a fucking meme. Meme or not though, you'll still need those quartz to continue spiraling your way down to gacha addiction hell, so how do you get more quartz that doesn't involve ripping your credit card in half? First, you can get quartz by completing free quests in Singularity chapters. You get 1 quartz per free quest once you complete each one 3 times. You also get quartz by completing regular story battles too, as you've also probably noticed if you've done some story fights already. You also receive quartz through many other battles too, like interludes, skill rank up quests, and the like. You can also get them by reaching certain bond levels with your servants, which is the game's way of telling you that how long you've been playing with those particular servants. You also get 4 quartz a week just by logging in every day, and for every 50-day login streak, the game throws you 20 quartz to celebrate the fact that you still haven't rage quit the game yet from all the gacha salt that you've been chugging. You also get quartz from event campaigns that the game does on its social media platforms or whatever, and 1 quartz per every hour of maintenance, and since maintenance usually takes 3 hours, 3 quartz per maintenance. Unless it's extended maintenance, because that's when maintenance begins, and with that, more quartz! Or you could just, go the whole pay-to-win thing and start dropping mad cash on the game. But that involves setting your wallet on fire, and I don't think you need me to tell you that that's a pretty bad idea. Okay, finally we start getting to talk about the gameplay. From here on out, I'll be using Soberoni's guide from last year as a reference to tell me what I need to talk about, because otherwise I'll suck at writing guides. His channel is in the description, so please go check him out. He's a great FGO YouTuber, and his guide is probably better than mine. In case you haven't noticed already, Fate Grand Order is a role-playing game, or an RPG, where you set up parties of your units called servants, and you send them out to beat shit up, mainly for the purposes of farming shit, to make them or other servants you have in your account stronger. Occasionally you send them out to play the story or something, but you're not here for the story, you're here for the plot. What do you mean there's a difference? Servants consist of 7 main classes, and if you're coming to FGO with some familiarity with Fate as a franchise, you should recognize these easily. Saber, Archer, Lancer, Rider, Caster, Assassin, and Berserker. Most servants in the game are one of these 7 main classes. This game, however, introduces new classes into the Fate series, the first of which is called Shielder, because your main companion, Marshmallow, is that class, and she gets to be the only shielder in the entire game. Yes, even in the JP version. But because the Holy Grail War isn't really a Holy Grail War in FGO, the devs get the excuse to shove in new classes into the game, and they exploit the hell out of that fact. Currently, in the state of NAFGO at the time of this video coming out, there are a total of 10 possible classes that a servant can be, the ones we've just mentioned, plus Rulers and Avengers, and still with more to come in the future. For the most part, these classes follow a tactical sort of rock, paper, scissors interaction, where one class is distinctly strong against another class, but also distinctly weak to a different class. Sabers beat Lancers, Lancers beat Archers, Archers beat Sabers, Riders beat Casters, Casters beat Assassins, and Assassins beat Riders. The interactions between the classes here are very straightforward. If you have an advantage, you deal double damage. If you're at a disadvantage, you deal half damage. As a result, counterclassing is a persistent mechanic of the game, and it's essential to giving yourself the best chance at completing a quest. Now, this is where the whole counterclassing meta gets a little bit weird. Berserkers deal 50% extra damage against all classes, with the exception of Shielder. Conversely, though, all classes deal double damage back to Berserkers, so this makes Berserkers glass cannons by nature. It only gets weirder. Rulers only take half damage from everyone, with the exception of Berserkers, who deal their normal 50% extra damage to them, but also take double damage from Rulers as normal, and Rulers are class neutral against everybody else. Avengers, however, only have class advantage against Rulers and Berserkers, but also do normal damage against everybody else. You get all that? Alright, good. In case you forget anything though, you can always pull up the counterclass picture in-game to give yourself a refresher. Aside from their classes, servants themselves also have star ratings, which is both an indicator of their rarity and their level cap. 1 to 3 stars can be obtained from the FrontPoint Gacha, like we mentioned earlier, hence their lower rarities, and 3 to 5 stars can be obtained from the Quartz Gachas. 1 stars have a max level cap of 60, 2 stars 65, 3 stars 70, 4 stars 80, and 5 stars 90. As a rule of thumb, the higher the star rating, the higher the servant's base stats compared to those of servants beneath them in star rating. All servants can also have an upper max level cap of 100 through the use of grails, as I mentioned before, but the number of grails needed to get a servant to 100 depends on their star rating too. For 1 and 2 stars, it takes 10 grails. For 3 stars, 9 grails. For 4 stars, 7. And 5 stars, 5. You can't cause a servant to gain a star in their rating or upgrade their star rating. That's a privilege reserved only for best Kohai. Sorry, BB. But if you do grail a non-gold servant, i.e. a servant below a 4-star rating, when you grail them past level 70, you can give them a nifty gold border to signify that you've grailed them past that point. So that's cool, I guess. So let's talk about what happens when you toss your team into a fight, which is what I probably should have started this guide off with in the first place, but whatever, you guys will manage. FGO is a turn-based game, and ultimately your goal is to kill everyone on the left side of your screen, or at least do enough damage to get them to run away if you're dealing with like story fights or event fights or something. The core gameplay consists of you tapping that attack button on the bottom right and selecting 3 cards out of 5 that the game hands you to choose from. There are 3 types of cards: Quick, Arts, and Buster. Quick cards deal the least damage, but have a boosted rate of producing critical stars, which allow your servants to deal critical hits with their attacks. Arts cards deal normal damage, but have boosted Noble Phantasm generation rates so that your servants can charge up their Noble Phantasms faster. Buster cards normally can't do either star generation or MP generation, but they deal the most damage. If you combo 3 cards of the same type or color, you get what's called a card chain. A quick chain instantly generates 10 crit stars for you to use the next turn. An arts chain immediately gives every servant whose arts card contributed to the chain 20% extra MP charge, and a buster chain further boosts the damage output of the buster cards that are a part of the chain. If you combo 3 cards and they're all from the same servant, you get what's called a braid chain, in which the servant whose cards you've picked to attack with gets an extra attack, quite literally. It gives them an extra opportunity to deal more damage, generate more crit stars, and gain more MP charge than they otherwise would, and it's the only way in this game to make 4 separate attacks rather than the usual 3. All servants have skills that they can use in battle when it's your turn, indicated by the buttons hovering over each servant's HP and MP bars. These skills significantly impact the outcome of a fight, so much so that a servant's skill set is one of the main determining factors of how mechanically good a servant is in FGO. The main reason for this is that command cards are all basically the same in utility, and while servants may have differing command decks and varying combat stats to make their combat utilities distinct, ultimately they're all doing the same thing with their command cards, but skills can be uniquely different from servant to servant, and they have the freedom to allow servants to do things that go beyond what the command cards alone are able to do. Do some research on your servants and see exactly what their skills can do, and their exact efficacies. The game doesn't tell you how powerful a skill is, so if you want to know how strong a particular skill is at a particular skill level, for example, how much extra damage Saber's Charisma skill gives at level 1, you'll have to look that up online. And the higher you level your servants' skills, the much stronger they become, the shorter the cooldown durations, and the more easily your servants can do their jobs and beat whatever quest you throw them out to. But because you're going to be limited on materials and your own time that you're willing to spend on this game, combined with the nature of leveling skills, maxing out everyone's skills just isn't feasible. Well, unless you're a farming whale, but that's not most of you. So go for skills on the servants you enjoy playing with the most, or the ones you think will have the most impact for your own gameplay. In case you can't decide which ones on your own, some servants I'll suggest leveling skills on first are Waver, Herc, and basically all the top tier free-to-play servants I mentioned earlier in this video. In addition, all servants have a special attack aside from their command cards, and is called a Noble Phantasm, or NP for short. Like skills, NPs are unique to each servant and have tremendous impact on your gameplay. There are two types of NPs, offensive and support, and as you might guess just off the sounds of them, offensive NPs do damage to one or more enemies, and support NPs provide buffs to your own team or debuffs to the enemy team, or even a little bit of both. Offensive NPs are either single target, which obviously only hits one enemy, or AoE, which hits all targets, and this too is dependent on a servant-to-servant basis. Again, just like with skills, look up your servants' NPs and see exactly what they do. Some NPs are pretty straightforward and easy to understand, while other NPs have a ton of effects that you need to memorize to get the most use out of them when you use them in a fight. And the final piece of the core gameplay comes in the form of craft essences. They've been mentioned constantly throughout this video, so now we'll talk about them a little bit more directly. Craft essences, or CEs for short, are, like Soveroni said in his own guide, pieces of equipment that you can give to your servants to power them up in a quest. CEs are also rated similarly to servants, in that they can be from 1 to 5 stars, and just like servants, you can pull 1 to 3 star CEs from the FrontPoint Gacha, and 3 to 5 star CEs from the Quartz Gachas. When equipped, CEs give your servants a wide variety of effects that benefit them in battle, ranging from command card effectiveness to NP damage, and even to how much XP or QP you get for finishing a quest. They can be leveled just like servants, as we discussed before, and when limit broken, they become even stronger. Just be careful with your party costs, since both servants and CEs cost party points, which limits what you can bring into a quest. You can't just bring all 5-star servants and CEs to a fight. Not even a hyper whale like me, who's max level and thus has the current max party cost available, can do that. So if I can't do that, you can't either. So you have to be a little bit thoughtful about what you're bringing into a quest and pick both your servants and CEs wisely. And also, when you set up your support lists, make sure to put CEs on the servants you get as support as well, because even if it's just a crappy 1 or 2 star CE that you got from the FrontPoint Gacha, something is better than nothing. Plus, you can always come back and replace both the CEs and servants that you feel are weak with the ones that you think are stronger, and will make your support look a little bit more attractive later on down the line, I guess you could say. Though, conversely, there's nothing stopping you from just setting up a support that's filled entirely with nothing but your own personal favorite servants and CEs, meta and tier lists be damned. It's your account after all. So now that we talked about the gameplay, let's move on to the overarching picture that is FGO. This game has a clear, discernible meta, regardless of what you think about meta talk, tier lists, or anything of that sort. And that meta is the support meta. Not as in your support setup, but in a gameplay sense, like Mercy.
Heroes never die.
Except not trash. Is she still trash in the Overwatch meta right now, actually? I don't know. It's been a while. This is the reason why you always see people have Waver, or in a few instances, Tamamo, on their support caster slots, because Waver is the best damn support servant we have in NAFGO at the time of this video coming out. And even in JP, he's top 2. Or maybe top 3. So if you happen to be lucky enough to pull waiver at any point, congratulations! You're covered for the next year's worth of content or something. Well, at least until this fuckboy shows up. But regardless of whether or not you have your own waiver, unless you're looking for a specific servant for a specific role that you need to fill on your team, you're probably going to take a support waiver or something for the majority of your quests and battles. This is especially true when you start fighting boss battles, where bosses have HP pools in the hundreds of thousands, sometimes even millions, and a servant with just their own skills and MP isn't going to be enough. So frequently you'll find yourself relying on support servants to take the capabilities of your teams even further beyond. As for events, FGO has plenty of them, all of which you should take advantage of, rather than grinding away at free quests and class dailies for Ascension materials that sometimes have some pretty fucking abysmal drop rates. You can spend your time more optimally playing through events and buying out items in the event shops to get what you need instead. As a matter of fact, some events even offer exclusive 4-star servants whom you can grind for free, which is why Western fans of the game typically call these event servants welfare servants, because they're basically free gold servants. Exclusive items aren't just limited to servants, however. You can also pick up limited time CEs that are also exclusive to the events in which you can get them, and no amount of whaling is going to let you get those welfare servants or event CEs back. Well, unless an event rerun happens. And now it's time to talk about Gacha, because aside from all the memes and the salt that you've stuffed your degenerate brains with from it, like it or not, it's one of the core elements of FGO, or any Gacha-based mobile game for that matter. In the context of FGO, NAFGO has the distinct advantage of knowing exactly when it's headed its way, thanks to the fact that JPFGO is 2 years ahead. Aniplex, the publishers of NAFGO, have made it clear that they intend for NA to follow JP in terms of content, and while they've been flexible with this statement at times, for the most part they've remained faithful to their original statement. Hence all those Clairvoyance EX memes you might have heard on Discord or something. This means that you as an NAFGO player can plan with damn good accuracy your course of action towards the servants you want to prepare for in the event that they haven't been released yet. For example, if your favorite servant in JPFGO is Musashi, then you want to max out Musashi completely, as in level 100 and 10s in all skills, then you can plan accordingly. By doing some research, you'll find out that Musashi debuted in the game with the 2017 New Year's Gacha. And assuming that Aniplex doesn't fuck shit up, and releases Musashi when she's supposed to be during New Year's 2019 in NA, you have about 6 months to save up quartz for her and gather all the Ascension and skill materials for her, XP cards, QP, and grails, to max Musashi the instant you get her from the gacha. Assuming that you do, that is. In my opinion, this is how you as a free-to-play or a cheap-to-play player should handle the gacha. Check the rates on the gachas using the summon info tab that I told you about earlier in the video, and you'll see that you're dealing with some truly god-awful rates, like 0.7% chance for a rate of 5-star servant, which means that you could potentially shove dozens, hundreds, hell even thousands of quartz, if you're really fucking unlucky, for one damn rate up servant and end up just getting bent over hard by the gacha. So unless you have some A++ quality luck or some shit, or you just truly don't care and you're not worried at all about falling victim to rolling, don't treat the gacha as just a random slot machine, and to be frank, there's not much that separates a gacha from being a straight-up slot machine. I mean, it does spit out waifus at you on occasion, which is nice, but you have to remind yourself at what cost. You might also point out the fact that I myself am a massive frickin' whale with over 6,000 bucks sunk into this game, but I can afford to do so because I have what's called a job, and all the money I spend on this game is money that I'm willing to lose because it won't negatively impact my lifestyle if I do end up feeling like I didn't get any return on my investments. Sure, some people can absolutely afford to whale on this game if they want to, all power to them, but not everybody is in that same position as we whales are, and I'm not so blind to fail to realize that. Hence, I recommend that you look for a servant that catches your interest and has the potential to be your waifu or husbando. That way you have something to work towards with your quartz, and this dissuades you from just randomly tossing out quartz at whatever banner just on impulse. Or you could be that guy who does exactly that, and to see what they can get, which is fine too. Just don't get hooked on it and then realize that you have no more quartz, and then go to the FGO subreddit and bitch about how little welfare quartz NA FGO gets compared to JP. Because by that point, you know, why not just, like, go play JPFGO then? I don't know. And finally, I'll echo what Soberoni said at the end of his own guide. Play however you want with whatever servant that you want. And admittedly, this might sound a bit out of place in a video that's supposed to be telling you how to min-max your NAFGO account, and certainly that's what I've been doing for the most part. Well, I think so anyway. But ultimately, FGO is a single-player game, and you get to do whatever you want with your account. If you want to be a meta hipster and say fuck top tier, that's all good. Because that way it'll be more challenging, no doubt about that, but you can do it, and the game offers plenty of ways for you to play however you want to play. People like Honako have done it, and they're still doing it, and so if they can do it and keep at it, so can you. And that's all I've got to say for this video. Wow, I know this ended up being a really long video, probably unnecessarily long, but there was just a lot I wanted to say that I thought would be helpful to those who are interested in Fate Grand Order, whether they're just looking at the game from an observer's perspective, or they just picked up the game or are about to. I'll try to answer whatever questions that you guys may have for me in the comments, so feel free to ask around. And if for those of you guys who are watching this video, even though you've already been playing for the game for the past year or something, feel free to help out the people who might have questions here as well, since I might not be able to get to all of them on my own. But in any case, enjoy FGO. It's a game after all, despite being the salt generator that it is. I'm also working on the updated versions to my previous how to use all the 4 and 5 star servants in the game videos, and I hope to get them out by the time Anime Expo rolls around. Thanks for watching this video, and until next time, deuces.